What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, want to talk about Stellar Blade and why I'm actually quite surprised on the lack of controversies, the lack of opposition. Now, maybe it's my sector of the internet, but I try to broaden my horizons. I try to look outside of my little scope, and I guess what I mean is Stellar Blade, I think when it was first announced, definitely had some attacks from the, let's say, the anti-the way that Eve looks campaign. I don't really want to use certain words for YouTube purposes, right? Don't want to get the channel in trouble or anything, but I think we're all on the same page, right? Lots of journalists did not like, and I would say journalists. I don't really know many average Joes, on Twitter that were all that much complaining, but a lot of people in the gaming journalism sphere were very upset with how she looked. And actually, when I'm recording this video, I'm recording it Thursday. You guys will see it later. But the stuff that's been brought back up, right? The shift up, the developers actually, fired a couple people at the studio for seemingly, I think they had a lot of issues also with the way that some of these characters looked. And it seems like they were just kicked straight out of there and then went to try to smear them, which I support the studio in this case. If you're there, I mean, there's actually quite a bit of conversation around that topic. Right? There's a lot of rumors, there's a lot of speculation, but some people are saying like they kind of went in with the idea that they were going to like go after them. Like that's why they wanted to get hired there, is so that they could, mess around and try to mess things up. And then once they got in, they try to like rat them out to like shareholders, talking about, the depictions of these characters. And then the studio just, kicked them to the curb, which I very much am in support of in that way. If you're there for the sole purpose of ruining the game, that's literally why you're there, is to stop it from happening or stop parts of it. You shouldn't exactly be there. So that's fine with me. But I guess what that kind of sparked in my head, the conversation I want to have in this video, it's actually, I feel like a lot of people are on the same page with that. Definitely, I mean, yes, there are sensitive topics, and there's sensitive topics all over the place on YouTube and on Twitter, but I actually feel like people are kind of coming together with this game. It's not to say, by the way, that you can't have criticisms, right? I actually saw plenty of people saying, hey, the game looks cool, but it's still a wait for a review type game, wait for a sale type game. Like, they want to see more. They want to see more from this game, which, I respect that. That's fine. Maybe you don't think that they showed enough. I've kind of been sold on it since the beginning, not because of the depiction of these characters, although they're pretty good, but also, other reasons. And I think the State of Play did a really good job. I think personally, to me, it sold me on the gameplay. The story was already intriguing. The characters were already intriguing. The gameplay is just something I kind of wanted to see more of. And I'm in. I'm getting this game day one, and I'm not going to have any regrets, at least, right now. But I get it. I absolutely get it. So it's not about that. It's not about that we all have to come together and never say a negative thing about this game. That is not something that I'd ever say or think, because that's just, not who I am. But that's not what I'm talking about. I'm actually talking about the surprise that and I'll tell you this, I actually clicked on a Kotaku article. That's right. I bit the bullet, and normally I don't do this. Normally, like, I'll look at screenshots of that other people take of these articles. I really try to not click on them. Really ever since, I think it was also Kotaku, right? The Trump versus Biden PS5 review, right? That really broke me, and I don't know why that existed. I don't know why they did that. Well, I think we do actually know why, but I read that, and from that point on, so I would really say, around 2020, going into 2021, I really tried to stop feeding into the rage bait. But this one, I clicked it because I said, you know what? I want to see, because Kotaku, right, is the craziest of all of these. So if Kotaku is actually not going to go after the depiction of these characters, then the world must have solved all of its issues, right? And no joke. So I went on Kotaku, or I actually just looked it up, and Kotaku did an article on Stellar Blade based off of the State of Play. Nothing. In fact, whoever wrote that, I would actually give a round of applause. They were leaning into it. And I hope that's kind of where we all are. And that's kind of what I was hinting at earlier. We can have conversations of the game now. Because that's actually the most important thing, and that's what we should be talking about. That's what I like to talk about, right, is the game. There can be strengths and weaknesses. I really just don't want us to have to talk about over and over and over again leading into this game how these characters look. Now, just because they're not writing this stuff now does not mean they won't be writing this stuff at April 26th, right? In fact, I would wager a very good amount of money that you will see at least 2, 3, 4, maybe it's Polygon this time or GameSpot. Those two are kind of wild as well. Maybe you see something like that going after how these characters look. And I would not be shocked because I think it's going to happen, okay? But for the time being, I'm actually surprised we are not getting that. And that's what, I want to make this video on. Kotaku leaned into it. I think a lot, you go on Twitter, oh my God, everybody is leaning into it, right? And I mean, I think that's fun. I think that's funny. You know what I mean? It's not a big deal. It's not a big deal how these characters look. I've always been of the mind that it's like, okay, well, here's the thing. You have like the Aloy situation, right? Like what happened to that character, the character model and stuff, and people having, disagreements, let's say. If the mindset we want to have or the narrative we want to have is, hey, these developers are allowed to make characters, and, obviously people tend to get upset, I think, the most online about women for what, you could debate amongst yourselves why, but that oftentimes happens, right? When you have a character like an Ellie or an Aloy or an Eve or any of these characters, right? Whatever, okay? But with the Aloy situation, that really, the resolving narrative was that let the studio make what they want to make. Now, you could disagree with it, but let them do what they're going to do. And it only seems to apply one side. It seems to only apply when like an Aloy situation has, not when a character like Eve exists, and then you see journalists say, oh, women game characters cannot look like that. Oh, but you have a problem when people talk about Aloy, but you're not going to leave this alone. I thought the whole point is to leave it alone. If you want people to leave Aloy, which I'm fine with. If you want people to leave Aloy alone, that's fine. Leave Eve alone. Leave these other characters alone. It should be a level playing field. Now, we know that they don't actually do that, right? They pick their targets, and they really don't want characters like Tifa is a really good example as well from Final Fantasy. There's always been a lot of conversation on her and, wanting those changes and stuff. It's not new, and it's not just on Stellar Blade. Tifa is a very, I think, timely example because obviously Final Fantasy is happening too. So that's something that I thought would really, like, anytime you show Stellar Blade, that's what I thought would be said. It wouldn't even be about the game. It would be about this. And I'm pleased to report in my search, and I'll be honest, I didn't look that hard because I don't like going on any of these websites. I think a lot of them are trash. But what I saw is not a lot of it. In fact, actually, zero. And even, the story I said in the beginning about these people being fired, I have not seen pushback to that at all. That is a very 50-50 kind of maneuver, right? You can get canceled because of that, or I guess you can have a situation like this happen where, again, you kind of just lean into it. If, like I said before, if the whole purpose of these people being hired was to take down the game, really, or to inject themselves and say, what we want, what we think is important for gaming is more important than the entire team, is more important than the game itself. If that's your purpose, then you should not be there. And I think that's fair. And I'm, again, surprised that it seems like the majority of people are agreeing with that. You do not see the biggest Twitter handles that spread kind of gaming news that are tweeting that Stellar Blade news story. And again, I'm recording this couple hours, after it happens and when the dust has settled. The biggest Twitters are doing this, and it's actually like the responses are good, based. This is like what they should have done, that kind of stuff. I honestly did not expect to see that. I thought it'd be more 50-50. I thought maybe you'd have some targeting kind of campaigns against the game. Again, I think you still will. Journalists can't pass up a good opportunity to do something like that. You know what I mean? So as we get closer to April, maybe when previews happen, maybe when the game actually comes out, I do foresee there being some attack. And again, just to reiterate, in case people don't know, because we have talked about, topics like this before, but, maybe it's your first time and stuff. My point, and the reason, we're talking about it, I want to eventually, and we talked about the game literally 2-3 days ago. I talked about the game itself. As we get closer, as the game comes out, when you're playing, my TV's over there, when you're playing it on your TV, I want the conversation to be about the game itself. That doesn't mean there can't be negatives. There can be negatives, but if you're going to talk about the characters, I would hope it's either positive or negative of, hey, it looks good, it doesn't look good. Hey, the outfits are cool or they're not cool. Not, well, they don't have the right to make a character look like that, right? Or like they shouldn't have a character look like that. That stuff doesn't really belong in the conversation, and it's been brought up, for years at this point, because the game has been around for quite a while, actually. So I'm honestly shocked and surprised, but I'm happy. I think this is absolutely a good thing, and I hope this carries over to the release. So let me know what you think in the comments. Let me know if you think that, they'll change their mind and start attacking the game. Let me know if you think that's a good prediction. Make sure, as always, you're subscribed to the channel. We will be covering this game a lot as the months go on, and I hope to see you all there.